Hello everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. Like some of you might know, as IEEE of the Lebanese University Faculty of Sciences, um, our goal is to help the students to gain technical and soft skills and to help them advance in their career. I want to introduce our committee. I, Maribel Al-Kahuf, Chairperson, Gabriella Shibley, Vice Chair, Mary Jane Karam, Secretary, Ora Hello, Treasurer, Elidina, Webmaster, and our branch advisor, Dr. Nawal Sabra Gemayel, which will be our speaker for tonight. Dr. Nawal is currently a professor at the Lebanese University. She lectures courses in electrical engineering domain, covering mainly electrical machinery, PLC, and microcontroller domains. She also supervises projects that are related in engineering domain in PLC, controllers, and Arduino applications. Dr. Nawal has worked on her PhD and ultrasonic food domain application and continues in several local applications afterward. Dr. Nawal, the floor is yours.
Hi, Maribel. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Maribel, for the introduction. I'll share my screen. Okay, so as you all know, I'm going to tell you today about how to write a technical report. So to begin with, I will introduce the different types of reports that you might encounter, be it in the university or in the domain of work. Then I'm going to go into some examples, not all of them, of course. I'm going to focus mainly on the ones that you are going to see more often. Then I'm going to delve into the technical report, and I'm going to talk about each part. And then I have a list of very important notes that I consider very important when you are writing to pay attention to them. And then I ended with two small things, one talking about the presentation and how it is related to the report, and the mind maps and how this is related to all the other work and the report. So to begin with the types of reports. So at the university, you are going to use short memo, what we call today the email. So this is to remind people of small things. You have the lab report, you have the internship report, progress reports, the project report, and the research report. We're going to talk later on about them in detail. When you go to a company, you're always going to use short memos. You could write an incident report or an audit report or other financial reports, a marketing report, progress reports for the projects, project reports, because at the work also you might have to do projects, and many other types of reports. So you see, reports are all around you, not just at the university. So to take some examples, let's take the lab report. I expect that most of you have already done lab reports. So let's see. It is required basically for every official lab experiment. It should contain personal project details, the date of the experiment, the general details. You have to put the material used, the results, and then after you put the results, you always have to discuss the results. And you have to discuss the measurement error. And here I please pay attention that when you are in the lab and make measurements, try to make them fit there. And I've encountered students when they are taking the value, find values are different from the theory, just it. Lab is made for you to understand there is a difference between theory and experiment, and you have to say that I got this amount of error. It might be enormous, but you have to explain why you got it. This is one step of becoming what you call a scientist. understand the error and then know how to reduce it. So this is the explanation. This is the right-hand side. I'm putting some examples of a lab report, for example, here.
Doctor,
Yes,
we cannot
what did you hear
see
last?
we cannot see your screen.
Okay, يلا لحظة. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. So I was talking about the lab report, and I was saying there's an example at the right-hand side. And in this example, they're explaining the different parts as well. And they're saying, do not put personal pronouns. This means that when you're writing a lab report, so that it is official, you never say, I did this, or never use the pronouns. What you use is that you technically talk about the experiment. And when you really have to put something, you say we, not I, never. A progress report, this comes with a Gantt chart. The Gantt chart, I don't know if you know what it is. It is a plan for your whole project. So when you have a project, what you begin with is to plan your project, and you put a timeline for your project. Once you put a timeline, you are going to divide this into different deadlines. If I have a project for, let's say, 4 months, I cannot say in 4 months I have to submit a machine and a report and working machine. I have to divide this into weekly, bi-weekly deadlines. It depends on the size of the project. It depends on the time plan you want to have. So at every deadline, you have to submit a progress report. Also depends on you and your professor. So a progress report has something like this example. You can put your team name, your plan, what you expected to achieve at this time, the progress, and where you are on this step, what might be some problems that you encounter that make you fall behind on your plan. So this could be submitted to your professor on a weekly basis, bi-weekly basis, and then if you have, I added here that if you have finished a certain part, you want to describe the part that you did even in a week. Maybe it is your the readings that you did or one part of the machine. You can write a page about it or a paragraph about it, but you don't put it inside the progress report. You just write it on a separate file, and you can send it to your professor alone. It is very important you start writing as you are doing your project. You never wait till the end of the project to begin writing, for two very important reasons. The first reason is that after 4 months, you are going to forget what you did at the beginning. And the second reason is that writing a report is a hard work. It's a hard part of the job. And when you write, you can reflect back upon what you did. So if I finish a part and write it, I can correct myself and I can find the mistakes and move on. If I leave all this to the end, it will not be intuitive. It will not help you anymore within the project itself. Sorry. Internship reports are submitted at the end of every time you go into an internship stage in a company. So if you are required to submit an internship report, it has different parts. So you begin with the title page, of course, acknowledgements if you want, the table of contents, and then you have a description of the company. Then you describe the project that you worked on. You might be a very small part of the project, but so that the reader can understand what you're working on, you have to give me a briefing of the whole project. And then you have to describe your own work within this project. It's not enough so that you describe what project you're working on. We have to see what is your plus, what is your input to this project. And then you have to reflect on the skills that you have acquired in the internship, and you always end the conclusion. And it is very important that you get an internship certificate when you are leaving, because if it is asked of you later on, maybe the company doesn't remember you anymore. So it's very important every time you leave a job, every time you leave an internship, ask for a certificate. The project
Doctor?
report. We're talking about projects within the university, projects, or
Doctor? شكله عندها connection issue. Doctor,
Yeah.
can you hear us?
Yes, I am back.
Yes.
So what is the last thing you heard?
كنت عم تقولي إنه we obtained certificates وبعدين صار في lag.
Okay. So I moved on to the project reports. So when we talk about a project report, it is an official report. I submit it at the end of my final year project or another large project. It could be a project in the company, and I have to submit the report based on the work of my team. So at the university is usually a project supervised by a professor. It could be individual, it could be a group project. So it has to have a report. I was talking the slide before about the progress report. So if I already done
دكتور ما قادرين نسمعك.
Gabby. Is this better? Can you hear me now?
Yes. No. بس كتير عم بيقطش.
I changed the internet. I hope this one is better.
Okay.
Yeah. So the project is something you do at the end of the report. You do at the end of a project. So it could be your final year project. It could be a master's project. So here you have to have a detailed report. You have to talk about everything. So in the report, what I advise you to do is to write a title page. On the title page, you'll have to have all the details. acknowledgements, which are always optional. You have to have an abstract, the summary, then a table of contents, an introduction, and then you begin with the report itself. So we have a general description of the topic, and then a bibliographical review, talking about similar projects or items or whatever we know on the topic. Then the project setup, so it's either the material or if it is a software project, you have the softwares that you are going to use, you have to describe them and so on. Then you have to talk about the results, you have to describe the results, you put the results, and then you compare them with results available on the market. This means in the bibliography, and you compare them, saying that if they are better or they are comparable, yani close to them, and so on. You end with conclusions and what you call perspectives. And at the end of the report, you have to put your references, be it scientific or other references. If you are doing research in your master's, you have to end with a research report. This one is very similar to the project report. However, in the research, there's some different parts, some parts that are different. The project is, it could be a master's project, it could be a PhD project. It's always supervised by somebody. Research is usually an individual project. The report is detailed. So you have to put the objective of the work, the experimental setup, and the tools, and of course the results and the discussions. So the different parts are the same: a title page, acknowledgements, abstract, table of contents, introduction. But here, when you have, while you're doing research, this is really more into papers than if you were doing research on your engineering project. You will be doing research in other sites. You could be doing research on in other companies. It's not always in papers when you're doing something like engineering applications. Then you have to describe your setup, your experimental setup. Again, you have to put your results, discuss the results, and end with the conclusions and perspectives and references. The different parts. What is the abstract? The abstract is the summary of the report. So it has to contain an idea about all the reports. It stands on a page alone. It's not numbered because it's not a part of the report. Its length is 6 to 7 lines, 3 major subparts. You begin with an introductory line, very general line about the topic, something to capture our attention. Then 2 to 5 lines describing the subject itself. And then we end with a conclusion, where in the conclusion, we give a glimpse of where we got in the project. So we reached a precision of 1%, we did so, and so in the abstract, we do give an idea about the result. And when you research a book, you research an article on the internet, when the article is paid and you can't get it, they always give you the abstract. So this is important for the reader to understand what your results are from the abstract, because it's the only thing that is readily available on the net. The introduction, on the other hand, it is within the report. It's the first part of the report. So begin numbering the report on the introduction page. It is it's the paragraph, it's a standalone paragraph, not really a chapter. It has also 3 main subparts, beginning with an introduction to introduce the topic. Then we discuss the topic itself. And then at the end of the introduction, we have to lead the reader into understanding what different parts we have in the report. So it's really introducing the report to him. So I'm going to tell him, in this part, I'm going to talk about, let's say, the description of the material of the experiment. And then I'm going to go into chapter 3, chapter 4, I'm going to talk about the results, but I don't give an idea about the end result or the conclusion, because it's just an introduction in here. Unlike the abstract, you could have a common first line between the abstract and the introduction. It's so common, but the other parts are really different. I think all of you know what a bibliographical review is, but what I want to tell you is when you begin doing your work, you begin with reading a lot of papers. You do a summary about them and you write it. But when you are doing the work itself, you go do some work and then you find out that there's some missing information and you go do some more research. When you're writing the report, on the other hand, all the bibliographical work has to be in one part. So that whenever I later on going to use an idea, I'm going to refer back to, let's say, chapter 1 and paragraph 4, and I refer back to it, but I don't introduce it within the other chapters. So the bibliographical work has to be in one single part. So when I'm reading your report, I read within the bibliography all the different parts that you have read and that you are going to use within the project or the report. I don't want to read everything you read about the topic. I just want the essential elements that you are going to either refer to or are going to be important to introduce the topic to me. So I'm the reader. I want all the report to be coherent and to have one objective: explain your own work to me. So this is why the bibliographical review is very important. It is a part where you are going to explain what others did or introduce your own domain of work by the work of others, but it's not a part where you are going to tell me everything and tout et n'importe quoi about the topic itself. So what we say about the general description of the topic. So you can start this part by detailing some of the ideas mentioned in the introduction. Or in the introduction, just mention the topics. Here you can detail them. So we're talking about the topic itself, not the bibliography. In order to allow the reader to understand your topic, it's important to begin with the description of the different parts of your design. So I usually advise to have something like a flow chart or a block diagram. It's usually very easy to make, just text boxes. And you describe the whole scope of your project inside it, the different blocks of the project in an image, because images always talk better than words. Then you go to the bibliographical review, which is, as I already said, a summary of the things you have read and things you are going to use in the report and in your project. It could also include information that you could acquire from your company. That it doesn't have always to be things that you have read. And it should contain relevant information. And you will not be allowed to describe any bibliographical topic once you begin describing your own work. This means once you be talking about your work, you should not stop and then go back to bibliography. This will not be helpful for the reader and neither for your explanation. After we finish the bibliographical description, we're going to move to the project itself. So we begin with the experimental setup. The image has nothing to do, it's just an example. You have to begin with a good description of your setup, of the machine you are using, the softwares you are using, why you are using them, why not something else, and so on. Description of the results and their comparison with those available on the market or in the bibliography. This is very, very important. This is your work. So here you are going to put more time, you are going to explain better, you are going to put all your charts, all your results, and explain each one and evaluate. If you ever get a bad result and you did all the correct setup and you ended up with a bad result, sometimes this result is explainable, it's justifiable. So you just don't you have to put it in your results. You have to explain why and try to understand why it is different from what you have expected. So in this chapter, this has to be the largest part of your report because it's really what you are giving to science. Okay. You have to put all your charts, all your graphs, you have to explain each one of them. You have to explain how you have taken and how the measurements have been taken, if there's anything that you have not already mentioned in the parts before. And you have to add conclusions and perspectives. Conclusion is what you did, like a small summary of what you did in the report. And the result, the values that you have obtained. Perspectives is what you would like to do if you continue the project, or what you advise somebody else that wants to continue the project behind you to do it. So perspectives are what I can do in the future, or what possibilities does this project open to? Well, of course, in your project, you never do everything. So this opens to different perspectives. Moving to my important remarks and notes. The title page. And the title page, make sure that your name is at the center of the page, that your name is the largest. You have to add the university logo, the company, or other collaborating universities on the top of the page. Of course, a title, a date. In here, we don't have a jury, so you add a jury member in the bottom and smaller font. Okay. So your name is in the middle, not the professor's name in the middle, because it's your project. The paragraphs. Each and every paragraph should begin with an introduction line and end with a conclusion line. I'm not talking about a conclusion paragraph. Just like they taught you, and when you're learning French and English, the teacher already taught you that. You never begin with a title and then you put another title behind it, and then you put a graph, and then you write me, everything is explained in the figure. No, not everything is explained in the figure. Everything is explained in your own words. You have to introduce why are you writing this paragraph? What is the objective from this paragraph? So you have to write it in the introduction line. And then you have to explain and talk, and everything you would like to talk about, you have to write it in your report. And then you have to refer to your figure within the text and tell me to look at the figure. If in the words you don't tell me to look at the figure, I might just skip the figure and never see it. So you have to tell me, and here there's a table and we are referring to, go to this table and look in here, and you have to just, what is the most important information in this figure? What's the most important data I should look at in the table? You have to tell this to me within the text. Okay. All figures and labels, of course, have to be numbered and captioned. So if I don't want to begin by reading your report, I just took your report, I just want to have an overview. What I can do, I can flip around within the report, look at your figures and read the captions below them, look at the titles maybe, and get a quick idea about your report and the flow of your ideas. I have to be able to do that. So I have to have numbers and captions for each table and each figure. And of course, they have to be referred to within the text so that when I'm reading the text, I can always also know where to look at them within the text and how they are relevant to your ideas. Okay, here is a table that you have referred to here within the text. And so I know that when I'm reading at this part, I know that I'm going to look at the table. Every information or equation that is copied from a reference as is have to be put between quotations and you have to put the number of the bibliographical source behind it. And here I have put an example. This is not copied as is, this is why I didn't put it between quotations. but this is the idea from the reference, so I put the reference number behind it. And the bibliographical references are at the last page of the report. The pages should all be numbered. This would go also for the slides, the PowerPoint presentation. And we start numbering at the introduction page. If you have, if you're doing a software report, this is an example where you could put your code. Somebody has put his code. So on the computer screen, it's still okay. If you put this on the projection, everything which is black, the projector gives it a null, and it doesn't give anything. If you print it, it gets even worse. So what you do in this case, even if you're working MATLAB, you just go take the image itself, go to an image program like Photoshop or something, and you invert the colors. So it flips the colors and it becomes really readable within the text. So never go for something like this when you're writing your report, when you are cropping parts of your program. Acknowledgements are mainly to the people who directly helped you in the work. So there could be technicians, engineers. You could add thanks to your professor, the one who helped you, and but usually don't put the management and the director because they never read it anyways. Again and again, avoid the friendly chat. Yani, you read a lot of things on the internet. There are a lot of blogs today, and there are a lot of unofficial sites that our minds are used to. So many of the students cap the language of these blogs and put them in their reports. This is not allowed. I don't talk about, some people just write the reports as if they're talking to me on the over a coffee. The report has really to be official. So anything related to common speech, friendly chat is forbidden within the reports. The presentation. Once you finished your report, you can just create your presentation from the images that you have. And what you have written in the report will be what you will be talking in the presentation. So the presentation could be prepared on PowerPoint. It could also be prepared over LaTeX. You can write your report on LaTeX as well, or other programs. They contain information extracted from the report. You should not write a lot of text, especially if you're presenting your own work. You have to include charts, figures. You have to, in the presentation, you reduce the part of the bibliography. In the report, you have all the space that you want to explain everything. But in the presentation, you have limited time. So instead of spending your time explaining other people's work, you have to reduce that part and spend more time explaining your own work. You have to, on the images, on the slides, to avoid having a lot of text and dividing the attention of the people that are watching you between trying to read from the slides and listening to you. Reduce the text, but keep all the keywords, any word that you might forget, which is very important for the presentation, you keep it on the slide. Somewhere in the image, in the caption, in the small text, it would be very helpful. I would like also to introduce mind maps. Mind maps are a way either to write a report, write a presentation, or analyze a book that you're reading, or analyze your, if you want to study a chapter or for the exam, and you want to create a summary of your chapter on one page, you can also use the mind maps. This is one example of mind maps. The basic idea of a mind map is to take a large paper. If you take the A4, you have to flip it here like the screen. And then just in the middle, put your main idea. And any other idea that derives from it, just put a line and you write the ideas. The advantage is that if I have a link in my mind between the blue circle and the orange circle on the other side, I can just draw an arrow and link them together. Whereas if I'm writing in the linear classical way, I cannot do that. It wouldn't look readable anymore. This theory behind it is that this image represents the synapses in your brain, so it is more friendly for your brain to understand it. You could, especially if you want to write your report and you try to write and you just stuck on a white paper, you could try this. Just put one idea after the other, and they don't have to be in any particular order. The order comes later on. Just throw your ideas, brainstorm by yourself, and it just builds up by itself. Some people like it. I use this method for all my reports. Some people maybe will not be able to work with this. They will have to find their own way. This is another example of a mind map. It looks more funny. This one is not scientific, but this is another way to draw a mind map. So this is what I was saying about the ideas, and anytime you just remember an idea, you will always find a place for it. I end up with something I'd always like to tell my students: enjoy writing so that I enjoy the reading. I finished, guys. Do you have any questions?
Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Nawal? You can unmute or write in the chat. If you don't have any more questions, I will conclude. Thanks, Doctor, for this insightful presentation and clear explanation. Hope that everybody have benefited and took notes to use them in the future. Thank you, Doctor. يعطيك العافية.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Doctor.